there's not a doubt in my mind that personal development is essential in this, especially in this type of industry, in entrepreneurship or in business ownership. I don't think you can be as successful as you would want to be without personal development being a very large part of it. Yeah.
What's going on, everyone? I am pumped to be here with my buddy David Taggart of A5 Roofing down in Texas. David just started his business, and from what I know, he's got a pretty big vision. So really looking forward to unpacking that, learning a little bit more about him and what he's got going on. And this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a very tactical one. We're going to dive into his brain a little bit and learn, I'm sure, a few things. So what's up, David? How are you, brother?
What's going on, Joe? It's great to be here, man.
Awesome. Thanks for making the time. I know you're super busy. So for those of you or those people that don't know you already, can you just give us a little rundown on who you are, what A5 Roofing is all about, kind of how you got your start so far?
Yeah, for sure. A5 Roofing was started by my wife, Jackie, and I. And what we decided to do is focus on what we felt like was a kind of a two-part problem in the industry, especially for younger, newer salespeople, and that was going to be, effective leadership and just good sales training as a whole. And so, really focusing on servicing both the customer and your sales staff, like your employees, is super important to us. It's always been kind of a topic of conversation for about the last year, especially the last year. And then coming back from RoofCon, it was just, if not now, then when? So.
All right, very cool. So yeah, you and I met at RoofCon, which as of this recording, was it 2 months ago, I guess?
Yeah.
So going into RoofCon, which is an amazing event, by the way, had you planned, like you guys were talking about it, but did you have plans in place, or was that kind of the tipping point where like, okay, we got to do this thing?
Yeah, it was at RoofCon was an experience for me where I was getting a lot of very constructive feedback on my my headspace. Basically, why are you not in business for yourself? Like you understand, this, that, or the other, and you've got a good concept of A, B, and C. Why are you not just making these decisions for yourself? And so it was almost like getting a lot of validation, I guess, from the universe more than anything. And then coming back to Fort Worth, some different opportunities were presented to me, and after some discussion with my wife and I, we just figured, like I said, if not us, then who, and if not now, then when?
That's awesome. Was there some level of like you knew you wanted to do it, but maybe you're like seeking that, like you said, validation or permission from other people to be like, yeah, you can do it, man?
That's one of my working points, we'll call it that, right? One of the things that I'm cognizant of and I like to pay attention to is trusting myself enough to say, hey, you can do something you've never done before. You absolutely can do it, and even if you fail, it's okay because many people never try, right? And so getting into the roofing industry, I had started a business before and I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I loved building fences and decks, and I had every tool in the world to do it, and this was my passion. I was not an entrepreneur. I was just really good with a saw, and I couldn't figure out how to grow the business past being the guy building the deck. And so when I got into the roofing industry and I realized that sales was particularly easy, then I started learning about sales leadership and developing a sales team. And then I started trying to learn a little bit about marketing and strategy. I knew within my first 6 months, I could absolutely do this for myself. I was one of those stereotypical sales guys that goes in, gets a little bit of experience and is like, dude, I could do this. But the bottom line is from watching where people stumbled, I figured I could do it better just by having that shared experience with them, right? I would see the things coming that the first and the second year roofing contractors and the fifth and sixth year roofing contractors have never seen before. But because of my proximity to them, I see the directions that they took and the plans that they made, and I figured I could do it better. It's not better, but it was just different to avoid those stumbling blocks and some of the things, the obstacles that you see. And that's really where my wife and I decided, it was time for us to go. Was we saw that need. There was, there's probably a better way to do this for all parties involved. And why don't we, instead of asking people for permission to implement that structure, why don't we just do it ourselves?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I hear that. I'm almost 100% committed to an additional business. I'll be starting in 2022, and from a mindset perspective, it's one of those things where I want to do it. There's really no reason not to. And I kind of have told, some people in my inner circle, almost looking for someone to be like, nah, you shouldn't do that because of this. Or maybe that's not a good idea.
Why is it, sorry to interrupt, why do you think we do that? Why is it that we do that? We have a track record of wins that we can look back and say, clearly, we're very, qualified to handle. Why do we do it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's that self-belief, I guess. Yeah, I even said to one guy in my kind of inner circle, it's like a few weeks ago, I was like, man, I told him flat out, I was like, I keep looking for a reason to not pursue this. And I really haven't found one. And he's like, no, man, like I gave him permission to be like, no, you shouldn't do it because of this. And he's like, no, you should, man. You'll be great at it. So, I don't know. I guess it's just self-belief and maybe fear of failure. Yeah, but it's like you said, I love that. If not us, then who? If not now, then when? I love that.
That's that caveman complex where we know it's safe in the cave, right? There's fire in the cave, there's shelter in the cave. Like we don't know what's outside of the cave. And that's what makes it intimidating, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking of that, I've been obviously you and I are connected on social media, and I appreciate that you're engaged with my content and you share my content like that. That means the world to me. And I also get a lot of value out of your content. One of the things that you posted within the past week, I guess, was you at the gym. It's like, why do I wake up at 4:15 every morning? Why do I go to the gym and beat the shit out of my body and, this, that, and the other thing? And it was this kind of like, you don't want to be normal. So you intentionally challenge yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Man, I like to, just with the gym, right? It's the first thing that I do every day. I wake up usually around 4 a.m. I'm at the gym by about 5. I do my little hour and a half workout, but I enjoy starting my day off with a challenge that ends up in a win, right? Because there's always that one moment that comes up, and it's never at the same time and it never happens the same way, but there's always that one little moment that pops up to where nobody's watching, nobody knows. If you don't get this last rep, it's okay. Nobody else in here is going to hold you accountable. You're tired. You really ought to go make some breakfast before you get to work, and let's cut this thing short. So there's all these excuses and stuff. And then there's the opportunity to put that part of you back where it belongs and make a conscious decision to do it even though. And that's the mentality that my mentors and stuff that I've kind of gotten through personal development. And that's really, I think, the difference between a lot of people. I mean, if you ask me, like, well, do I think I'm going to be successful in this? Yes, absolutely. I think I'm going to be successful in this. And I think it's mostly because of my mindset. I'm not afraid of something going wrong or something being difficult or being uncomfortable to go through, because I know on the other side of that there's growth, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you and I are both big Andy Frisella fans, and I know you shared a few episodes with me last week. I got to go check those older ones out. And I'm the same way. I work out 7 days a week, first thing in the morning, well, about fourth thing in the morning after like meditating and reading and things like that. But every morning I work out, and this morning I had to. So today's the last day of November 30th. So every salesperson out there knows that. Finish up the month strong. But I have a goal. I have a goal personally to run 100 miles every month. And so woke up this morning and I knew I had to do 7 to hit my 100. So man, I didn't want to do it. It's 27 degrees out here. And I went up to the beach here in New Jersey, and I did it, and I knocked it out. And that's just a personal thing for me. Like, it's not like, I had an accountability group or anything like that. Like, no one would have known if I didn't do it. but that gave me the win. And those little wins, like Andy Frisell talks about, like in 75 Hard, for those of us, who've done that, like those little wins give you the confidence that you can go out there in life and business and just overcome any challenges or curveballs that come up, right?
That's right. That's probably one of my one of my favorite things about not only the 75 Hard program, but also just the entire complex of lessons and things that I've learned through Andy with the MF CEO project, from 2015 all the way to 2019, and then with his new line of content as well. It's a little more politically involved. It's a little more socially involved in stuff. So but it's very good. It's very good creative content, and I definitely resonate with it. It's definitely something that I align with, and I think that there's not a doubt in my mind that personal development is essential in this, especially in this type of industry, in entrepreneurship or in business ownership. I don't think you can be as successful as you would want to be without personal development being a very large part of it. Yeah.
I agree 100% for sure. Yeah, that's huge. So besides Andy, who are some others that that influence you in your life and your business?
Oh man, in life, Andy Frisella, Jocko's a good one. David Goggins is another one of my favorites. When it comes to business, I'm actually, your line of content is my current personal favorite for marketing and SEO stuff right now. So I've got literally, half my screen is Joseph Hughes doing like what did you do last week? You did a Google ad, or Facebook ads, right? Was last week's? Last week
the
before
webinar.
you had the webinar about, so I've got that going on the left hand side, and I'm building a Facebook ad as I'm watching that, right? And I ran it for like 5 days, and we ended up getting one conversion off of it. We got 9,000 engagements, and it was like 0.024 cents per click. And I was just like, like, that's dope. I mean, I guess maybe that's cool. Maybe that's horrible. I have no idea. But, I literally spent like $6 and some change, and I got a phone call from a homeowner. So like, I'll take that win all day,
Yeah, man. Stack them up, man. Double down on that guy.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. That's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna have a conversation after the podcast is over for sure. But
Nice.
that kind of stuff with personal and life, with my business. Oh man, there's business wise, there's too many. I'm really watching guys like Kevin Burrell. I'm watching Jacob Fuchs. I'm watching. Let's see, man. The guys, Jordan Despian with Noble. There's a lot of people on my radar that I'm paying attention to and I'm learning from. And I have an opportunity to watch and kind of listen to their podcasts and go to their websites and see all their backlinks to everything else and actually learn from these people as they're having conversations with guys like you and Patrick Carr and the American Contractor Show and whoever. And it's almost like I posted on my Facebook about it the other day. It's almost like being in the largest free mastermind group in the world, if you use it the right way. So there's a lot of people professionally in this industry that I take in from, for sure.
Yeah, and hey, dude, you're give yourself some credit. You're giving back. I mean, you're providing a lot of good value and inspiration to others as well. So, and I saw that post of yours. I agree, man. Like if people are going to complain about social media, it's because like they don't take the time to be proactive about it. Like it's literally your curated feed. Yeah. Like if you don't like the content you're seeing, get rid of it, unfollow people, like put people in there that are going to, be positive. I my Instagram feed, I love it because it's curated for the stuff that I want to see. So I agree. Like there's so many opportunities to learn, and it sounds like you're someone you're a great student, and you're going to look at this stuff and you're going to learn it and you're going to implement it, which I know you talked about in that post. I think there's like way too many people out there who are kind of just want information, right? Just gathering all this information, like that's going to be the big difference. Like reading as many books as you can, and I'm an avid reader. I'm not bashing reading, but like just plowing through books just to say you read 100 books in a year or whatever. But it's all about implementation. It's all about finding those things that you need at that point in your life or your business, and going and applying them, and not trying to apply everything at once. I see a lot of that. There's information seekers like all over the place, like thinking that there's like some magic out there, but it's really all about just showing up and rolling up your sleeves and getting to work.
I remember the first time that I tried to read Gitomer's Sales Manifesto. That was one of the first books that was ever given to me, and so I was going to sit down and read that. I was not the kind of person at the time that could sit down and read and really listen and digest. I don't think that really started for me until until I started taking my work life and my sales, door-to-door sales especially, as a trade craft, right? It is a muscle that needs to be exercised in order to grow, and you have to look at roofing sales. And I think this is what really, when I first became vocal on social media, one of the first things that I remember talking about was business owners, quit letting shitty sales guys tell you how to run your business. And then roofing sales guys, you need to start acting like your job owes you money, which means learn about it, study it, figure out new and different ways to be a more effective marketing person, sales guy, whatever. Figure out how to get in front of more people, because that's your job. And I started taking it seriously, like a little bit more seriously. Then I went back and read Gitomer's book again, and because of the change in the mindset, I think I was able to retain and understand things just on a different level, and I think it's absolutely crucial, man. Absolutely crucial. Again, I'm a huge fan of personal development, but there are a lot of people that, like you said, just digest and never take action, and what do they call them? Success zombies, right? They're always they're at all the trade shows. They're at all the the Tony Robbins banquets, and they're always there. They're always there in the same level they were the last time.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I'm a big fan of rereading books, and when I have a book right here, but I'm actually not reading it, but it's just on my desk. It's called Think Again, and then this is a gift from one of my buddies. But I'll put up here like the month and the year that I read the book, so I can go back and I can see like, oh, I read this like the past 3 years, and each year, each time I read it, I'll go through and highlight maybe some different things, right, that jump out to me based on my business and life experiences, and I recommend that to anyone. Because there's different seasons in life, and there's things that you're going to grasp and things that you're going to resonate with at different stages of your business. Yeah, one more piece of content I want to reference. I just saw this morning. I think Dimitri asked you if you're going to be at the roofing conference next week in Florida, and you're like, no, man, I gotta sell some more stuff before I can take some time off. And I think that was cool, because I think there's so many people that, and I used to do this too as a vendor, if you will, or sponsor. Like, just go to the events because it's like, hey, that's what everyone's doing, right? That's like the default. Oh, I've been to this event the last 3 years. I got to go to it. But it seems like I read your comment. I'm like, that's cool, man. You're being intentional about like what you need right now in your life and your business.
Yeah, don't celebrate too early. I remember the first time I ever learned that lesson. I bought a Harley, right? And that thing, it was like a 2008 maybe. Dinah Street Bob. I loved it. I ended up doing a little bit of wrenching and stuff on it myself. But I celebrated too early because I ended up having to sell the Harley to take care of some other things that popped up. And so what I realized was that if you jump into something too soon and you don't actually deserve to be in that space or in that arena at the time, in that capacity, the universe will find a way to bring you back to where you need to be. And so for right now, with a company as young as I am, there's no storm chasing random markets for me. There's no, taking time off. Like Thanksgiving, I stayed in my house right here, and my wife and I worked on the website over Thanksgiving. Like, we even during our time off from our jobs, right, our businesses, we were working on the one that's going to carry us for the next 20 years. So I don't want to miss things like, the roofing conferences and the events and things like that. But at the same time, I know what is going to, where I need to be, and what, Adam Bentzman, the best advice that I've heard in the last 90 days. I was on the phone with Adam, and I called him and I was like, hey man, can I ask you for some advice, so on and so forth. What would you do in this position? And Adam said, just put blinders on. If what you're going to do is door knock and generate leads and build relationships and build roofs, and that's how you're going to do it, and that's what you want the core service of your business to be, is restoration work, put blinders on and just do that. Like, don't change the course. You have to create the data to support making a change in direction, and you're not going to do that in 30 or 60 days. Like, you have to give it some time, and so put blinders on and just move forward. And so, like we were talking about personal development, the EOS and the part of the process in EOS, and I'm sure a lot of people understand what we're talking about here. If they don't, it's the entrepreneurial operating system. There's a book called Traction. It's phenomenal, but that's actually like one of the steps of the operating system, and collecting the data and implementing the process is the part that we are in currently. And so we don't want to deviate from that plan by doing things like celebrating too early. Hey, let's take 3 days off and go see all our friends in Orlando again. Ain't nobody got time for that right now. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I love the intention there. I love it. When a few years ago, when we were kind of getting more heavily involved in the roofing industry, getting invites to go to conferences and speaking and sponsoring different things, it was yes. Just be out there. I remember at the time I had a business partner, Tim, and he and I this was a couple years ago, we were like on planes in different cities like every week for a quarter, for like 2 or 3 months. And it was cool. Like, I think we had to go through that to see like, okay, what's worth it and what's not. Like, where's the ROI? Where are we building the relationships? Where are we leveling up our brand and authority? And then what we realized after that, we kind of did an assessment. We're like, there's an opportunity cost for everything. Like, we can spend a few grand and go down to, Dallas or Orlando or Vegas or whatever to some conference. But we can also sit back home in our offices and crank out some work and maybe spend some more money on ads and reach more people. And it's always weighing that opportunity costs, and that's huge. I think a lot of people don't weigh that. When you commit to something, going to a conference for a few days, you're saying no to a whole bunch of other things. So that conference or that event or whatever it is, it better be worth it. You better get a ton of value out of it that you can go back and implement. So that's how I kind of view these things.
Yeah, I usually try to even schedule all of my telephone calls with adjusters and everything else on the days and the times that I know I'm going to be taking a 4-hour drive down to San Antonio. I've got 4 hours to touch base with all my leads, 4 hours to call all my adjusters, 4 hours to hit up my suppliers, 4 hours to talk to my subcontractors, because once I get to San Antonio, me and my guy Garrett are door to door. We're out in the streets, like we're putting into, and I leave DFW at 4:00 in the morning. So I'm in San Antonio when the sun's up. We're running, like the parable says, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're a lion or a gazelle in Africa. When the sun wakes up, you better start running. So there go me and Garrett, knocking on doors. And, then in the evening times, I have my daughters. So it's very limited for me to do what I need to do. And in the daytime, again, gym, super early. Kids get off to school, go knock doors. And then on the trip back to Fort Worth, 2 days later, I got 4 more hours to call all my leads again. It's been 48 hours since I've touched everybody. I got 4 hours to make phone calls again. Let's go.
That's awesome. I love that. Speaking about the business, let's go back to that a little bit. I know we kind of dove into the personal development thing, the mindset, which is huge. What's your vision for A5, David?
Oh man, my mom asked me that about 3 days ago. She said, "Do you have a 10-year plan?" And I was like, "No, I don't think anybody has a 10-year plan." I mean, there's too many logically. There's too many things that are such incredible variables that it would be very hard to put together a practical 10-year plan that you could follow. However, I want to be in the house, in the mountains, in my office, surrounded by snow in Colorado, and I want 7 sales managers in different cities across the southern central United States. And I want to sign checks on Fridays and travel once a week to each location and make sure everything's going well. That's the kind of life that I want to live. And so that's in 10 years, that's where we will be. In 10 years, that's where the business is going to be, I think. I don't think that's what I'm going to try to do. So
yeah, dude, that's awesome. No doubt. I agree. 10 years is to me a little bit intimidating. But that sounds like a very vivid picture of where you're going to be. So no doubt you'll get there. Have you read the book Vivid Vision?
No, I have not. I have not.
Write down. Yeah. Author is Cameron Herold, Canadian author. He's written a few books, really good books. Vivid Vision is a short read. It's a fun read. And his whole thing is kind of like what you said. He's like, 10 years, man, there's so many variables. There's, outside forces, economic forces. We don't know really what's going to happen. Great if you have that kind of end goal in mind, for sure. But when it comes to actually painting a picture of where the business is going to be in the future, for him, the magic number is kind of like 3 years. So paint a picture, create a vivid vision 3 years from now. 1 year is kind of short because it just flies by, but 3 years is enough time to put a lot of pieces in place and get there. And so the book kind of takes you through like how to create this vivid vision and then share it with your team and share it, on your website if you want, things like that, depending on how far you want to go with it. But yeah, that's a really good book. I read it just recently, twice last month actually, and I'm going to implement or create the vision in December. So we have it for the next 3 years. So yeah, it's a fun exercise to go through.
Yeah, I think that's something that's going to be super important, especially in this industry. I think because there's a large, man, I don't know how to describe it. There's almost like a movement of sorts if you're paying attention, especially to the roofing industry and how roofers and marketers and distributors. I mean, there's a guy that's on my news feed that I'm a part of a group of, and he works for Southern SRS, Southern Distribution, right? Southern Shingles. And they're a distributor here in Texas, and he has live sales training for roofing salespeople posted all the time inside of this group. And it's free content that he knows is good for, if he teaches people how to sell and coaches people through sales, they're going to buy more of his products because they're going to sell more roofs. And so it's a delayed value exchange there, but he's putting it out in the industry. And I see a lot of guys like you and just there's so many other people that are doing that, investing in that delayed value exchange right now. I think you're going to see a lot more individual entrepreneurs and especially current business owners in the industry branching off into new and other exciting things that are closely related to roofing somehow. I bet.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. Definitely a lot of great people in the industry for sure. So that's an awesome vision. And you mentioned one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, there's different ways that we can kind of develop a game plan or a blueprint or a map on how we're going to get there. You mentioned EOS. Is that something that you're following? If not, or like what kind of systems are you kind of following? What kind of framework are you following to build out your business?
A couple of different ones. Yeah, EOS is something that plays a role in my cognizant, my decision making, my day-to-day operations with the business, and kind of following the simple steps. I when I first started door-to-door sales, like I didn't know anything about door-to-door sales. I was watching all the free YouTube Becca Switzer and Adam Bensman videos I could find, and then I saw some Lee Haight stuff, but I couldn't. Because of the way my brain works, I was before roofing sales. I said, I built fences and decks for a long time. My passion was, and for the last 15 years, I have been a licensed electrician. And so troubleshooting and problem solving with science was, great for me. But even troubleshooting electrical systems, it is a process that you walk yourself through, and you know that when you get to a dead end, you can take a step back and take a different path to solve a problem. And so I had to come up with a process of tracking my progress at the door-to-door sales conversation. And so I created this little 4-part breakdown of my pitch and my introduction and asking questions and trying to gather information and then assuming the sale and blah, 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 blah. And I'm kind of doing the same thing with business ownership just based on my experiences so far. I have the process by which business is generated and business is closed written out and posted, so that way everyone a part of the business knows what our process looks like. And I also have a series of little videos that I've been recording for the last couple of weeks that are small 60-second videos about each part of that process. And we're going to use that on our website as educational content so that homeowners know, hey, listen, this is not just you and me talking about shingles and then boom, your roof gets done. There's a whole involved process, and this is why you have a specialized contractor. Again, I digress. There is a process, but I'm kind of fleshing it out as we go.
All right, that's cool. Yeah, well, you have that vision, so kind of reverse engineer what needs to happen. And if you want to have those 7 sales managers and 7 offices, then yeah, you better have some processes for the way that you do things.
Yeah.
To me, like we just went through this yesterday. We have our team meetings on Mondays, and it was a taxing day. It was a good long day of meetings, and where we were going through some things and identifying some areas where like we have, sometimes we'll have like a Google Doc here, or like a spreadsheet here, and then we have different softwares and things are kind of all over the place. Like, how everyone knows that, how that works, right? So we're like, how can this be easier? Like this process we have is just kind of a cobbled together thing, but like as we grow, that's going to break, and it's relying on me as a bottleneck or someone else as a bottleneck. So how do we make that process more elegant, and how do we maybe document that so when we bring on a new person to our team, it's like they can just plug in and watch some videos and get trained up and things like that. So I love that challenge of business. It's like taking this complexity and trying to simplify it and put it into a process, and that's what enables you to grow. And so that's fun to me at some level.
It is. Yeah, it's definitely fun creating something from scratch, especially when like I created a outline one time, and it was just like 2 or 3 pages long, but it was different little sections. Like I had to teach these 13 sales guys in San Antonio how to do door-to-door sales, right? Because here, let me show you what I can do. So I broke it down into an outline, and then over time, the outline just got more and more involved. And by the last time that I actually touched it, it was a 47-page training manual from, identifying storm damage and basic knowledge on, composition shingles and metal roofing, all the way to the insurance process, dealing with adjusters, supplements, so on and so forth. And I've been using this manual that I've kind of compiled over the last 2 years as a means to teach both other roofing contractors, salespeople, and my own salespeople. So, but yeah, it's all, you gotta make it up as you go sometimes, and figure things out the hard way and learn the lessons. And when you learn the lessons, write them down, because the notes you take on your wins and your losses becomes your training manual. So
that's so true. So true. Yeah. Yeah. One of the things like that we talk about here is, okay, something doesn't go the way that we wanted it to, or something broke. Like this morning it happened. We enrolled a new client, but it for some reason somehow got mixed up in our CRM. We actually enrolled like the wrong person. So like this roofing company owner was getting all these welcome emails like, oh, we're so excited to be working with you. And he wasn't the one that actually paid and became a client. So we had to like backtrack. And so like, all right, that's kind of embarrassing, but how do we ensure that that does not happen again? Right. How do you tighten that up so there's no room for error there? So yeah, make it up as you go. Fun stuff. We talked about your 10-year vision, which is pretty awesome. I'm excited to watch that unfold. Let's bring it down to earth a little bit. So we're recording this on November 30th, 6 months from now. It's May 30th. It's like prime busy season for you guys. What does your day-to-day look like 6 months from now in an ideal world? Are you still out banging doors, or are you not selling? Like, what are you doing?
I don't think I will ever not do that at least a little bit periodically. Get out and have those one-on-one customer interactions if it's in a neighborhood. I enjoy now walking up to doors and introducing myself as the owner of A5 Roofing, because people are like, wow, the owner is, out here knocking on doors and, so on and so forth. And then one of my policies is actually I have one face-to-face interaction with every one of my customers. Like I don't care if it's when they're contracting, building the roof, final walkthrough, cleanup, the depreciation release. One of those interactions, they're going to meet the owner of the company, and I'm going to ask them for feedback, and we're going to have a conversation. That's just part of what I want to do. As a business owner, I definitely think one of the ways to do that is, knocking on doors is a fantastic thing. It's a very powerful thing for business owners, especially when you introduce yourself as, the head honcho, as the final say so. The buck stops here, and I'm the guy. That's a powerful sales tool, and I think a lot of people overlook that sometimes. But in May, Jackie and I are actually either going to be in or closer to Austin, because our end of 2022 goal is to have a functional marketplace to occupy a small percentage of the market space in Austin, Fort Worth, and San Antonio. So we're planning on heading back towards Central Texas, actually in the middle of May. So that's what we'll be doing.
All right.
Between now and May, I've got to start putting my footprint in Austin a little bit more, and as well as San Antonio and Fort Worth. I definitely don't want to move to Austin and be, 2 hours, 2.5 from Fort Worth, and then 2 hours from San Antonio, and not have traction in the market in Austin. So I'm going to be spending some time this late winter, early spring, doing some door-to-door work there too.
Oh man, you've got your hands full. That's awesome, man. You've got a lot of work to do, but no doubt you'll make it happen.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about it. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe, I'm going to get some feedback after this. People are going to say, hey, look, quit trying to do so much. But, I'm young. I got the energy. I got the time, and I can take it now. So I'd rather be busting my ass trying to make this, this company go from 0 to 6 million in my first year. And then, man, year 10 and 12 and 15, when things are a little bit more figured out and stabilized and, not so up and down, I can actually enjoy business ownership then. So
you're not enjoying it now?
Oh, I'm enjoying it now. Yeah. Let me say I'm enjoying it now, but right now I definitely work on and in the business, more than anything else right now. And, I know that that's never going to go away. There's always going to be decisions that have to be made, but I envision being much larger and much more involved in the networking and the marketing side of the business as a CEO, doing what I know that I love to do, which is to, build relationships and talk with people and communicate and stuff. That's what I envision my day-to-day role being, the guy that's, responsible for maintaining and creating new relationships with general contractors and building developers and things of that nature. That's really where when I said, I want to get on an airplane and go check on my stuff, like, to tell Jackie, hey, we've got a commercial building in Aspen we need to go look at tomorrow morning. You can come with me, or you can stay here in Tucson. What do you want to do?
That's
So,
awesome. I love it.
yeah, that's where I want to be, man. That's where I want to be. So, whatever it's going to take to get there. But then when I'm doing what I want to do, instead of doing all this stuff that I can't afford to pay somebody else to do right now, then I'll enjoy it probably a little more, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and I'm just playing devil's advocate there. I know you're enjoying it, and there's always things in our businesses like every day that I'm doing. I'm like, man, I really don't want to do this, but I'm the only one that right now that can do this thing. But ideally, you take a pause. And you're like, all right, well, I'm doing this right now. What do I need to do, or how long is it going to take before I get this thing off my plate? Because I don't want to be here a year from now doing this thing. Usually for me, that's like a lower level activity where, I'm doing this thing, but I know if I do this other thing, then I can have much bigger impact, make more money, generate more business, that sort of thing. So it is frustrating. I think the key is to figure out like your off ramp for that, right? How much longer do I need to do this? Can I delegate this? Can I automate this? Does this need to be done at all? Can I hire someone to do this eventually? And then when can I hire that person? And I think that's like a lot of business owners don't go through that. And I'm not saying I go through that all the time, but like, I think they don't go through that exercise, and then you just kind of get stuck in the business because you're not just taking a step back and thinking about how you can get that off your plate.
And that was one of the things that really I think was beneficial about being an entrepreneur in the roofing industry for so long, is that I've had the opportunity to look at, like we talked about, the headaches that other people have experienced. And I'm like, I know what happens when you do that. I saw this person do that, and they made this decision, and this is how it played out for them. But just having that close secondhand experience and being able to learn from it is super beneficial all in its own. But it definitely helps you when it comes time to you having to figure out which way to pivot and what do we automate and what do we change and what was redundant and what's necessary and stuff like that. So
yeah, you're certainly a good student. I can see that. All right, brother. Let's wrap it up here. I got a call coming up in 7 minutes, and I'm sure you've got a lot going on as well. But before we do, any kind of parting shots of wisdom for the audience? I know you shared a ton, but just kind of wrap it up in a bow if you want.
Yeah, there's a story this morning that I read about a high school football coach in Texas that was kind of ridiculed for running up the score against this other team. It was like 116, and he went for the 2-point conversion after like the 40th touchdown, right, to 0. It was an astonishing blowout. And they ridiculed him for going after a 2-point conversion. Why couldn't you just kick the field goal like, a normal person? You destroyed this other team. And he said that's what we showed up to do, was to win. And we're not just going to stop because y'all quit. We're going to keep winning. And it reminds me of the 100-0 stuff with Andy Frisella. If you have an opportunity to win, keep winning, run up the score. And that just, don't stop just because you think you got there. Just keep going. So personal development is key and critical, and I think everybody should be involved in it.
All right, brother. I think that's going to be the theme of this episode, maybe the title of it as well. Something around personal development that drives business, that drives pretty much anything worthwhile that we want to do in our lives. So I appreciate you so much for sharing. I'm excited to get this edited, get it put out as soon as possible. Getting into December here, I think it'll be a great listen, a great watch for people as they're kind of getting into, the new year and planning and putting those pieces in place. So thanks so much for your time. I know you're busy. It was great to get to know you a little bit more.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Joseph. I appreciate it, brother.
All right. Sure thing. Talk to you soon.
All right, guys. Bye.